So to start this project off, I'm gonna do pretty much all of the plasma cutting. So I made myself a handy dandy list of everything that I need to cut out on that table. It's quite a bit. It's gonna take me a few hours to do if I had to guess, just because it's somewhat of a slow process for me. All right, so we're gonna load up the plasma table now, and then we're gonna load into the first couple sets of parts onto the computer, and we're gonna start cutting. All right, so we got all the parts cut out on the plasma table. I flat disced everything, both front and rear sides of it, got rid of all the dross, smoothed out some of those cut edges and made them all look nice and clean. I want the smoker to look pretty professional when I'm done with it, so that's why I did all that. It was a little bit more work. I'll be honest, actually, the whole thing was a lot more work than I was expecting, just getting these pieces cut. But you can see here, I've got 4 piles of stuff. I've got the upper section, lower section, the firebox, and the charcoal chimney. So now I'm gonna take all of these pieces of steel that are underneath the Jeep, I'm gonna cut those to their right lengths, and then we're gonna start to assemble this. We got the lower and the upper half of the actual smoke chamber complete. I'm letting this cool down right now. These edges weren't perfect, and because they're not at a 90 due to the angle I put in it, I don't have a piece that I could just put down the whole length of it. So I just a full length weld to help seal it up, and then I'm gonna run a bead of high temp silicone on the inside of this up in here to help seal up all of these gaps. This one's a lot easier. It was just all 90s, so it's a lot easier to do. Pretty straightforward how I made those. You saw me line up the upper box on top of the lower box when I was starting to do those first little bits of the welds. I just want to make sure that they get the closest seal possible so that when I put my high temp gasket in between it, it gets a nice perfect seal with no smoke releasing. All right, now we're gonna move on to the firebox. I've got all the pieces of sheet seal here. I've got the slugger chop saw over there. We're gonna start cutting the angle iron for this and putting this together. This should hopefully go a lot easier. This is just the 4 sides. It's a small square box. Super straightforward. Let's go ahead and get started, guys. Day number 3 of this smoker build, and we're finally making a little bit of progress. Here's a little sneak peek for you guys. That's what it's starting to shape up to look like. This is just clamped on. None of this is final welded. None of the hinges are on yet, but you can see the general idea of what this smoker is gonna look like when I'm finished with it. Now I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna clean off some of those welds in that center section where I folded it, and then we're gonna keep on moving, start making some big progress, start to do things like the accessories and the doors and things like that. Let's keep moving on this cool project, guys. Fourth t-shirt. This is taking a lot longer than I thought it was gonna take, but I'm trying to be thorough. I'm trying to make this come out really nicely and really professional looking, and that's what's taking me so long. So it took me a lot longer yesterday than I was expecting to smooth out all those welds on the top and the bottom section of it. Now all I'm doing is I'm just gonna drill some holes into the bottom of this that I'm gonna use to mount my wood onto. It's pretty simple, just doing 3 holes on each side, 2 in the middle, and then I'll do another crossbar. I also added like little crossbars like this on the bottom of it, and also over on the fire pit. That's just to help provide some extra support, give some structure to the 14 gauge steel bottom, and to really make this thing bulletproof. All right, we're making steady progress on this. I got the wheels on, I got the door to the firebox on, and I'm about to put the airbox controller on. So here's what this looks like right now. You can see those big 10-inch Harbor Freight wheels down there, just big enough to make this look obnoxious, which fits the rest of it. You can see the door. These are just some generic little door hinges I got on Amazon. They said they're for like Jeep tailgates, you know, firebox doors, whatever. They look nice and clean and simple. They are greasable. I'm gonna grease these when I'm all done. But I got that door finished aside from the handle. That's in this Amazon package that's coming in today. And I did just put one coat of paint over the firebox air control wall. I'm gonna let that dry while I cut a piece of this 1/2-inch steel stock that I have. We're gonna put it onto this little bit up here. That's gonna be the handle we'll use to rotate this, and then a bolt goes through there to allow that to rotate around. All right, steady progress. Let's go and keep on going. All right, so I've got these pieces of wood out here staining or drying on my very official back of my fence paint booth. I had this espresso dark wood stain here at home already, so I'm just going to use that for this purpose. So those long pieces of wood are going to go on the bottom to make like a tray section, and then that small square piece of wood is going to go on the handle, and that's what I'm going to use for the handle on this. I found this little piece of wood is part of a fence post. It was 97 cents at Lowe's for the whole post. I got like 4 feet of it. I don't need to use, but for $1, that was the best price I could use. Also, side note, I really dislike using stain, and I completely ran out of nitrile gloves, so my hands are just covered in stain, but whatever. All right, we're gonna keep going. We're gonna clean up the front of the smoker. We're gonna paint the top of it while we wait on those hinges. All right, the super grill is pretty much finished. So you can see how this turned out. I've got my air adjustment nozzle over here, a nice little handle for the firebox there. I just used these 2 hinges I got on Amazon for the firebox door. On the back here, I have 2 3-inch weldable hinges there and there. And then these are 2 supports so that when you put the lid down, it has somewhere to rest. I just used a piece of 1.75-inch scrap that I had for the exhaust, and then a piece from the plasma table, a little random circle I had cut out with a hole drilled in the top of it for an exhaust cover. I made this little handle here using just some 1/2-inch stock that I had, mitered the ends, ground it all flat. That gives it a nice little handle to pull and turn the thing on. The temperature gauge is just straight from Amazon, nothing fancy, nothing special, but it does the job. I just used some 1x4s down here for a little deck, that fence post there for a little deck or a little handle to grab onto, and then that's about that. Using big 10-inch casters, 2 fixed and 2 swivel so you can steer this thing. And then here on the inside, look at this. There it goes. Here on the inside, we've got the cooking grate right here, and then below it, you can just see kind of how everything's shaped out in there. I'm gonna clean out and vacuum out this inner piece, and then I'm gonna rub the whole thing down with canola oil, and we're gonna go do a test burn, and we're gonna let this thing burn for like 4 or 5 hours, really hot, just to really let it soak in some of that canola oil and burn out any of the old production stuff. All right, guys, we got the smoker completely finished, and we just did the first full smoke of a whole pork Boston butt right there. I think this is gonna work out perfectly. Take care, guys.